it serves. And then after that, like, so one time she did 6 in a row, and then she made another shake out. No, it hurts me because, of course, that's what we're in school. Yeah, we have a lot of educators. And so we would kind of like but then anyone who wasn't here, send a neat little kind of out. So it's like when kids got to that, he was there to kind of. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, right. So meet them. Yeah, I get that. I get that. That's so funny. He coaches at South Lake High School. I was in your game as well as last night. Oh. That's the one I was originally going to go to, but then I found out the Eustis game today and was like, that's absolutely gorgeous. That one really did, like, I keep telling, or I told him to play, so like, I probably made them more than but I do want to go to the boys' Eustis, I find like my little brother, he was like, he's the first of that's awesome. Partly yeah, a little bit of a hot stuff. That's funny. I love that. Why did he end up going to Eustis? Gotcha. But then it's like, I know the whole like the fact that people change schools now. They say it's not for sports, but it's for sports. They're just trigger free he was one who was really good That's crazy. That's amazing. Wow. Things make more harder. That's like they used to sell lady. She just so she just took it and running around and made like what she took that started with me for volleyball started this summer and then she let me know that before tryout she's like, hey, I'm sorry, she used to work on transplant at Eustis. I was like, I've been working with you all summer. And then she went to Eustis up until her junior year. And then senior year she transferred back to Umatilla. I think that was last season. And I ended up like being done coaching before last season. I was like, I literally wanted to
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Adriana Rivas. I'm the president of Young Professionals. And I want to introduce the rest of our board members. Monty's going to be trickling in a little bit later, but Monty Fletcher is our vice president. We have Kenya Evans, our treasurer, and Margaret, our secretary. The purpose of Young Professionals is to engage and empower young professionals by creating an empowering space, a vibrant space for networking, gaining visibility, and including in our environment. Our whole purpose is to engage our community, get people involved, and show that you have support here, that you're building your business, if you're a young entrepreneur, or if you're looking to just meet a friendly face that might be able to help you along your journey. And now I'm going to pass it on to Kyria to share a little bit more.
Hi guys, how we doing? It's Kyria, say it with me. Kyria. Very well done, good job. I love it. So our vision is to be impactful and relevant as economic, social, and civic leaders in our community. So we want to thank those of you who have supported us thus far, especially our experienced business people in the audience. And I thank you all so very much. We could not be who we are and do what we do if it were not for all of you. And to our newcomers, thank you and welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you all for coming out. So we have some exciting new things coming up to be a member of the YP, Young Professionals of the Lake Eustis area. If anybody's interested, please see myself or Adriana or our community secretary Margaret. Just to maybe get a little bit of details. It is new and upcoming, so we will have some more details coming in the future. Let us know. I'm going to pass it on to Margaret now.
Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to thank United Southern Bank and A Better Life Endeavor for sponsoring this event, and thank you to our host, the Mega Workplace, Pam and George. We really appreciate all the support you put into this program. And our lovely catering was done by Justina, who's in the audience. And
Bougie Boards.
Bougie Boards.
By Justina.
If you are looking for,
Come scan my shirt.
scan your shirt, take a look, take a picture, tag her on Instagram.
I have a QR code on it somewhere.
That's
It's
brilliant.
on my back.
That's lovely marketing. I love it.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad you came. So tonight we are lucky to have our special guest, Jason Neverett. He is the founder and owner of A Better Life Endeavor. He specializes in executive leadership, coaching, and business development. As a veteran-owned business, ABL Endeavor reflects Jason's diverse background and commitment to service. Jason served as a sergeant in the U.S. Army National Guard, Florida, was deployed during Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was deployed during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2010 and was later a private security contractor from 2011 to 2014. He was recruited specifically to work with the Pashtun tribe of Afghans because of his ability to lead, assess, and build teams of people of differing views and cultural beliefs. Additionally, with 20 years of experience in Florida real estate development and corporate acquisitions, Jason provides a unique perspective in guiding executives and businesses towards success. Without further ado, please welcome our guest speaker, Jason Neverett.
I appreciate that warm welcome, and I want to say thank you to the Chamber of Eustis for sponsoring the Young Professionals this evening. Great organization. By show of hands, real quick, I'm going to ask you to do two things. If this is your first Young Professionals event, put up your hand. Okay, very good. Would a few of you mind just keeping your hand up and saying your name and your business?
Derek Stryker, People's Floors.
Derek Stryker,
People's Floors.
People's Floors. Thank you.
Kaylee Smith with Hestia Legal.
Thank you. Dan,
Dan Williams, Real Estate Services.
thank you. I've known Dan for too many years now. We drank thousands and thousands of gallons of coffee and worked through a lot of interesting business development. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Kate Scott. I've just become a licensed real estate associate.
Well, thank you for being here. Anybody else? First time in business?
Devin Hughes, 2 men in a truck.
2 men in a truck. I was sharing with him earlier that 4 months ago we used 2 men in a truck to go from Eustis to Umatilla, and it saved my back and a lot of future pain. So I'm glad you guys were around. Anyone else? First time? Yes, ma'am.
Kaylee Campbell with Rod Van Dyke State Farm.
Thank you for being here.
Beth Williams, Consolidated Minerals.
Thank you for being here, Beth. Recovering from shoulder surgery. Someone else. I know there's someone else who hasn't gone yet.
Grace cannot, and I've been specializing in the self-employment tax credit. So.
Thank you for being here, Grace. Grace and I go back many, many years, and I appreciate you being here this evening. Did I miss anybody? Anybody else got a hand up? Or we'll move on? Okay, if there's not a hand up, we won't put you in the hot seat. Young Professionals is a great organization. We're looking at a group of young people in early startups of their businesses, where they're launching or putting together the formulas and all that's required to get their business up off the ground. In addition to, you look around the room, you see a lot of seasoned business professionals who are possibly opening new lanes of their business. Eustis is doing something very unique in developing out the young professionals through the Chamber of Commerce. It's becoming a hub, quite an interesting hub in Lake County that's attracting a business community that is not only networking with one another, but collaborating and connecting with each other. How many of you in here have been to a Million Cups event on a Wednesday morning? Okay, so quite a few hands are down. If you've never been here on a Wednesday morning, there's a national organization called Million Cups. They meet here, okay, and this room is usually full of people who are entrepreneurs, business owners, startups, somebody with a new idea that they want to share, and they get some feedback from them. I'm going to use a little bit of that modeling tonight in my presentation. As I talked with Monty, Adriana, and Margaret over the last several weeks, we wanted to come up with something a little different other than you showing up on a Tuesday evening, which I'm very grateful that you took the time out to be here and do that, and then to be lectured for 45 minutes. I'm really not good at lecturing. It doesn't have a lot of fun to it. I like things that are a little more fun orientated. So we're going to mix it up a little bit tonight, which is going to require your participation. Okay? The more you participate, the better I feel and the quicker I move. If the participation begins to slow down, I become one of those 1970s TV evangelists, and it never stops. They will just keep going on and on and on. So many of you didn't laugh at that, so you're probably not from the 70s, or maybe you were a TV evangelist. I don't know. But anyways, so participate, have fun. I'm going to ask you literally to engage in the process that I'm going to share with you tonight. I'm going to ask you to step out of a little bit of a comfort zone and maybe enter into a creative space to help you identify a few things that may be a competing interest to your thinking. We're going to talk about tonight thinking, beliefs, and behaviors. And we're going to move through it quickly. We're not going to get stuck. So let me give you the expectation of where we're going to go. So you can relax, come on back up and grab another drink or some more food. If you're starting to get sleepy, grab some more sweets, okay? Allison's Bake Shop is outstanding. And if you ever went in there and met Therese and learned her story about why she started that business, I believe a few years ago she did a TEDx talk in Eustis, okay? Phenomenal story, wonderful human being. I used to meet clients there quite often at that little round table in the corner, and it was just a wonderful place to be, and she was very gracious. She never chased me out. I'd be there all morning, half the time, until a group of retired women came in and started a book club. And they took over my space. They kind of evicted me with a different agenda. But if you'll take a minute, this is my wife, Chrissy. Chrissy, stand up, say hi to everybody, and at least wave. I'm not going to ask you to say anything. That wasn't standing up. You can do. If I'm up here, you can stand up together. Okay, that's my lovely wife, Chrissy. Next month, we celebrate 36 years. Right? Okay. I got the years right. I'm not going to commit to saying the date, but I got the amount of years right. October, Okay, so if she will hand out, she's going to hand out some, what I call a placemat. Who remembers when you used to have a placemat on your kitchen table? Who still does use placemats? Okay. This is my gift of creativity to you to take home with you after this event. My expectation is what we talk about tonight, I want you to have a continuing conversation with somebody. With someone who's important in your life, in that inner circle. Maybe it's a business partner, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's just someone that you value their input in your life, and sit down with that placemat, put a cup of coffee on it, make a round stain on it if you want, because your coffee slops around a little bit, and think about something we talked about tonight, and continue to carry the conversation past this evening. I'm going to kind of be at a 30,000 view on some things. We're going to cast a wide blanket. We're not going to stay in certain areas, and then we're going to drill it down to a few quick points. While I do that, I'm going to ask questions of you. feel free to participate. The more you participate, the smoother this goes. It's a lot more fun, and it's a lot more exciting, okay? I need your participation to help me drive the presentation. So, do you believe we're going to have some fun? I'm looking at some stern faces. We cannot. Look at the smile. Look at this. I paid for that. You know, I will admit that. I paid in advance to show up and smile. But we do want to have some fun tonight. So, what adds fun to a placemat to make the evening go better? What can you do? What do you need to have with that document to make it a little more fun? What'd you say? Color? All right. I knew there would be some high eyes in the room. Everybody familiar with the disc profile? I knew there would be some high eyes in the room. So, what I want to see is these crayons being passed around. Okay? Take a few crayons out, pass them around, pass behind you, send them in front of you, use them, change the colors. If you want to make beautiful hair on there and draw a picture of yourself, you go right ahead. But the more you pass the crayons around, the more I sense you're having fun, and the quicker we move, because we want to move quickly, right? Let me tell you where we'll land at the end of this. When I come over here to the bag and I pull out James Allen's book, As A Man Thinketh, who's read it? Who's familiar with James Allen, As A Man Thinketh? A few, right? Allen's not here, or he'd kind of take over. But he's a big fan of James Allen. We've had many great conversations about that. When I pull that book out, I'm going to end with a quote. You'll know we're wrapping up, and after that, there will be, I think, some of the young professional staff will have some questions. During the whole presentation, I'm going to ask you to ask questions. I'm going to ask you about some experiences you've had. I want you to take the pens and write something down on that placemat so that when you leave here, you can go ahead and continue the conversation that we lay some groundwork for this evening. Everybody understand where we're going tonight? Who's got a question about what we're doing tonight? Anybody? Any type of question? Okay, we're good. So, here's my notes, okay, of what we're going to do, and I got a few slides. Everything on my paper won't land on your paper. What I'm looking to do is create, in a very short period of time, a little window of opportunity for each and every one of you to say, what is a competing interest with my belief system? What is a limiting belief that I hold on to, and why? And how did it get here? Well, we might boldly take a little bit of a step into looking into your belief box. There's no judgment. Okay, there's no assignment of shame or guilt. It's just simply to say, if belief precedes behavior, okay, and behavior produces results, when we don't get the results we want in business, in any of the 5 key areas of our life, you see where it says 5 key areas on your paper? Somebody tell me what they think one of those 5 key areas of life is. Dan? Family. Somebody else. And write it down as you go. Your word might be something different. Family. Anybody else? What's the 5 key area? Monica? Health. Health and wellness. That's on the list. Angel, what's one of the 5 key areas of life? Values. Jim? Faith. Spiritual. Somebody else. Give me an idea. Relaxation. Peace. Health. Mental wellness.
Work is my life. I'll say it.
Work is your life. Okay. All right. We're going to get good participation from you tonight. I can see that already. All right. So what I'm going to do is take my notes and throw them up on the board as we go through this. Be thinking as I scribble some of this up here, and don't pay attention to my writing. Just put yours down. Just run with what comes to your intuition. My goal tonight, again, is to add value to one of these 5 key areas of your life, so that when you step out of here, you'll be thinking, why do I not achieve the results I want? And I'm like that hamster on that wheel, just going over and over and over. I can't come up with more hours. I can't come up with more money. I can't come up with any more effort. I'm tapped out. But I'm on this endless hamster wheel that seems to be bringing me nowhere fast, and I'm not getting the results I want. Jim said faith. Here's something I want you to think about. I personally believe, okay, it's my belief. It doesn't have to be yours. I'm not assigning it to you. The purpose of this conversation we're having this evening is not for me to have you adopt my values or my belief system. So I might say some things that you say, well, you know, I wouldn't necessarily assign that word to them. And that's okay. That's okay. You assign the word that's important to you and you write it on the paper. Somebody tell me why it's important to write on paper.
Remember, it sticks.
Sticks, thank you. And I don't hear so well, so just let it fly. Somebody else, why is it important to write on paper? Why, when Kaylee comes to my house, where'd she go?
Just step out.
Okay, she'll be back. I hope so. I hope she didn't leave already. Yes. I'm sorry? Commitment, great word. Anybody else? Why is it important to do this activity?
The receipt, come back to it later. You can come back to it later.
Yes. Document. Grace.
Visualize.
Visualize, huge.
Accountability
Accountability. Who are you being accountable
to
to?
yourself.
Yourself. Dan.
It's the first step of putting your thoughts into an action.
Visualizing a thought that's going to manifest into an action. Excellent. Yes.
We often learn very well through actively participating.
Actively participating, which we're going to do a lot of in here tonight, right? Everybody, right? Yeah. Come on, USB. I need to see some of that rowdiness who came in. All right. All right. USB has a way of taking over on Wednesday mornings. You got to be very fair. Okay. Very true. All of those are very correct. I didn't even know you were over there, Pam. I'm sorry.
I think it helps with your process. It's all the clutter up.
Brings clarity. Brings clarity. Excellent. Okay. All right. Let me submit this into your thinking, something you may want to throw down on the paper. Writing something down is an act of confession. We've all seen the movies. The guy's in the interview room. He's been arrested and he's sweating bullets, and they keep sliding that paper across and putting the pen in the hand. Heck, half the time they pick up his arm and write for him. So, not in the real world. That's only the bad ones. So it's an act of confession, or it's a profession. If you haven't entered, let's put up here in the right corner, if it's not on your paper, CW, the creative wilderness. If you haven't entered into the space of creating and designing your future, I assure you someone else is. If you're not in charge of your thinking and directing where you want to go on this little timeline in that area that says creative wilderness, someone else is in charge of your thinking. Willingly or unwillingly, you've surrendered that greatest gift that's been given to you. Your free will and your ability to think. Your ability to create. Your ability, let's write the word over here, it may be on your paper, to live life by design. Okay, now we started, I gave everybody giant heads because I know we're all very smart in my artwork and I know you appreciate that. So if you want to take the giant head here, okay, and do a line like this and throw a body on it with a couple legs and arms, that might be something you want to do because that's where we're going to go. It's completely up to you. I don't see a single crayon moving. I am just, thank you, Grace. Somebody else hold up a crayon. It's important to me. I went to Dollar General today and I bought it. Thank you. The whole Acre family's on the team. Wonderful. Thanks. 2 men in a truck. Okay. Keep those crayons moving. Give yourself some blonde hair if you want blonde hair tonight. I don't know. Create the you want on this placemat. Take it home and have a conversation with somebody. Okay. Living life by design. So on our arrow, on our paper, we have an arrow going this way. This is living life by design. This is living life by default. Someone, while my back is turned, please give me an example of what you've experienced in your life as a limiting belief or a competing interest to what we call the divine.
Failure.
Failure. Who said it? Coast Guard. Give a point for the guard. All right, wonderful. Failure. Let me ask you a question. Expand on that just a little bit. What if it doesn't work? And what 5 key areas of your life? Pick one.
Well, let's say starting a business.
Sorry?
Like starting a business.
Starting a business. So the fear of failure is very real. It's a limiting belief that you've identified. Write it on your paper. Write yours on your paper. Even if you don't want to raise your hand and offer one, write it on your paper. Get that act of confession. Get your mind expanding and open up your belief box just for a little time with me. Because when you leave, you'll want to continue the conversation with somebody. So fear of failure. Okay? Who placed the fear of failure in your mind? Anyway, who authors on your creative wilderness, your document that you're writing for your life's journey? Who's authoring or putting in that fear of failure? Greg, you're busting. Go ahead.
Right. Ourselves.
Ourselves. Thank you. Because many times people want to assign that emotion of fear of failure to an outside force or condition, but it's on you. You have responsibility of it. You have ownership of it. Fear of failure. Somebody else, give me another limiting belief, or let me add some language here. Quite possibly, what do you find in, okay, let's go to some notes here, in your thinking process? So these are my thinking clouds, right? Okay, you draw the clouds you want, but I'm going to say the thinking stuff, TS, the thinking stuff. What is a competing interest? Over here we have the 5 key areas of life, right? We have the 5 keys. We said faith, health and wellness, and there were several others, okay? Whatever you wrote down. What do you find today is a competing interest that gets in the way of you connecting to source and designing your life that wants to control that thinking process to a different agenda? There.
Watching the news.
The news. Okay? So let's stay there for a moment. I don't want to be thrown off the balcony, so it will only be a brief moment. Okay? So, the news. What do you use as a filter? What are you filtering? What are you using in your thinking as a filter for competing interests that want your thinking? What are you using? Somebody said something. There's no wrong answer. Ben. Personal experience. So information coming in has to have a filter. Do we all agree with that? Okay. Do we might find alignment or agreement with the next statement I'm going to say? I happen to believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, I didn't define for anybody what a spiritual being is. That's for you to connect to and design. That's for you to express out in your life journey what being a spiritual being having a human experience is. Because the human experience is this meat suit, the health and wellness part of what we talked about, that we walk around on this timeline, okay, going from the past to the present, okay, and we're in this vessel having a human experience, but we are a spiritual being. We have on your paper, what's on the top part of the circle, a big brain? Conscious mind. Somebody in your own words, tell me what you think. Conscious mind.
Active choices.
Louder.
Active choices.
I'm sorry.
Active choices.
Active choices. Free will. Another way of saying active choices, right? You have 6 intellectual faculties in your conscious mind, okay? We're not going to go over all 6. We don't have the time. But there's one that I want to stay in for a moment that I'm going to refer back to. The 6 are intuition, memory, perception, reason, will. Your conscious mind, if you want to write this, has the ability to accept, reject, or originate ideas. Your conscious mind is what connects you to the spiritual aspect of your life. Just stay with me for a minute, okay? However you approach that is for you to decide, not for me. I'm just sharing with you that what we have a tendency to do is ignore this connection, going back to what Derek said about the news or information in general from all different sources, and we connect into an agenda from a competing source. Why? What are some of the entities? Okay, so we said news, okay? We said news, right? Write it down. What's another competing interest in your life? There's a couple big ones, big ones in the room.
Peers?
Peers?
Yes.
Okay, association.
Yep.
Okay, write it down. Association. Write it down, because if you write it, you confess it. It's yours to take home with you, and then according to Greg, you have ownership, responsibility, and accountability for it. So write it down. Okay, peers. That's what came to Dan's intuition. Somebody else. What are some big institutional competing interests for this process in your life? Church. Okay? So I'm going to use a wider term and say religion. Okay? Religion institution. Information institutions. What are some other big institutions?
Societal norms.
Family. Somebody else. Institution. Government. That's the Mac guy. We'll put him on last. Somebody was in the back.
I said societal norms.
Excellent. Did you look something up? So, okay. Societal, I'm not spelling, so I'm scribbling. Norms. And boy, don't they change. Don't they change? Aren't we in an era where sometimes we're waking up and saying, what's going on? What in the world is happening? Okay, things are changing, and it's not necessarily for the spiritual good of the human being process. And remember something, I don't know if I wrote it on yours, probably not. You're a human being. That's a continuous activity. You are a spiritual being. So what does the word being imply? Louder? Action. Activity. What's another word for being, of wanting to become something? Behavior. Who said it? Growing. Growth. Okay? Growth. You never stop the process. Isn't it amazing when you meet somebody, a couple things happen quickly, something in right around this area where your belly button is, okay? I don't know if you have one of those rings in it or not, I don't want to know. It's all good. Okay, but right there in that spot, in your intuition, you say, I kind of like that guy's personality. Or, you know, I kind of back up a little bit. Do you understand what the personality is? Anyway, take a wild shot. It's part of what's underneath this line on your paper. Your unconscious or your subconscious mind. That's where you house your belief system. That's where you exercise all of your emotions. That's where the two greatest emotional expressions a human being has centers from faith or fear, and they're totally opposite. But they cause us to have the highest reaction of all our emotions. So, you know, if it's on a meter, bing, you know, something involving an expression of faith or something involving an expression of fear. The subconscious mind raises the vibrational frequency of the body. I don't want to put anybody to sleep here. Keep the crayons moving. Keep the crayons moving. Hand them behind. Just somebody fake it and hand one to the row behind you. There, hand one to my wife, so I believe it's really going on. Okay, very good. Excellent, Angel. You're always a team player, except for showing up to ride bikes on Wednesday, but I don't want to talk about that right now. So, my training partner on the bike trails, and he swims and runs and does other weird stuff. I just bike. But anyways, Margaret, do you have your hand up?
I can throw it at you.
Oh, let it fly. I'll be like George Bush when they threw the shoe at him in Iraq. Remember? Like this? I think he caught it. I think he actually caught it. But anyways, yeah, throw something. And listen, we're in a living room tonight. Isn't this a beautiful building? Think of it as your living room. Get up and get something more to eat. Get some more sweets. Get something else to drink. If you're a little warm, get up and walk around. I forgot to mention there's bathrooms over here, bathrooms somewhere back there. And if you just need to roam around and find them, go ahead. Get up and stretch it out. Because this is a little bit of a different presentation this evening. Okay? Back to the unconscious mind. Until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll let it direct your life and you'll call it fate. Or you'll call it luck. Or he's just a lucky guy. He was born into money. That's why he's successful in business. What's another limiting belief you've experienced in one of the 5 key areas of your life? Somebody share that with me. Or maybe a competing interest from a large institution. Derek said government, we're going to get there in a minute. And then we're going to talk about filtering. Politics. Competing interests. Why do institutions or organizations that we identify as a competing interest need to compete with your thinking? What is going on with your thinking, Mike, when you decide, I want to create a business, I want to step out and do something different, or I'm going to relocate my family? And we've all had these things in our life. Why does a competing interest come in to redirect that?
The not knowing the fear?
Correct. Your thinking is your life. Your thinking is your energy. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? Somebody said, I work around the clock. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. Your energy source represents something to institutions. Your thinking represents something to herd mentality. Anybody familiar with the 7 levels of awareness? Shout one out if you are. 7 levels of awareness. We're not going to talk about all 7. Okay, so the 2 lowest levels of awareness that we express on our human journey, okay, is animal and herd. And they each have a language. Animal level of awareness sounds something like this. I can't succeed at business because of the color of my skin. I can't succeed at business because I'm not part of the establishment. I can't succeed at business because my father told me if you don't go to college, you'll never amount to anything. I won't have a successful business or marriage because no one in my family stayed married. My dad told me, hey son, we're Irish, we drink, that's what we do. Okay? These are just examples. My dad didn't tell me that, but we are Irish. Yeah, exactly. So, my point is, we assign blame, shame, and shame to outside circumstances and conditions as a way to protect ourselves and stay at the animal level of awareness. Second level of awareness that's very low, and they go, oh, okay, yep, all right, here we go, there we go, is that better? Thank you. Is herd mentality. Pick out one of these things and just tell me about herd mentality. Everyone has experienced herd mentality.
I believe it because they believe it. I believe it because I was taught forever, and so because they believe it, I believe it. Everybody goes together.
Stay with the herd. How dare you, Dan Williams, how dare you step out of herd mentality in the institutions that make you feel warm and fuzzy and comfortable and dare to step into the creative wilderness and take charge and design your future? How dare you? We can't have that. You need to stay here in the herd. Because if you do that, that kind of shines a light on us, and all of a sudden we're like, uh-oh, this guy's out there in the creative wilderness designing, living life by design, not default. Because he took ownership of what it was he was going to set out to accomplish. Herd mentality. Another thing the herd mentality does. Hey, Angel, I know you're stepping out to create your own business, buddy. We wish you luck. We believe in you, but we're here when you fail. Just come on back. Just come on back into the herd. We'll welcome you back. We'll be the pallbearers to the casket holding your dream, and we'll all bury it together. But, you really shouldn't step out there and dream about having an independent business, about having something different than what the herd has identified for you. Language, herd mentality. One more. Aspirations. Here's another low level of awareness that we speak into our existence all the time. Great aspirations followed by no activity. I'm going to go to college someday. I'm going to finish my degree someday. I'm not going to write it down because then I confess it. And then it's a profession. And then it's looking at me. And I got to put it in the drawer. I don't want to take ownership of when I go to college, what I study in college, when I graduate. It's just not the right time because my boss won't let me. So I'll assign blame and shame to the boss, drop to that animal level. You see where I'm going with that? Okay. Great aspirations, no follow through. Okay, let's move. All right. In the subconscious mind, it houses our values, our belief. Greatest expressions are done through faith and fear. Now we're going to get into a little bit of a definition of something I want you to take home with you and think about. I'm not telling you that these institutions in and of themselves are bad things. I'm not telling you that religion's a bad thing or that government is necessarily a bad thing. What I'm challenging you to do is think into how you filter what is bombarding you every day. We draw some arrows. You draw some arrows, okay? You are being bombarded every day by systems of a system to compete for your greatest resource, your thinking, your energy, your ability to produce wealth. They cannot exist unless you jump in with the herd. They can't exist. They cannot exist without your compliance to say, I will surrender my thinking to your agenda instead of connecting and developing that thinking out into mine. And by doing that, connecting and developing that out, you begin to live life by design and not default. This is the default system. This is what we call the comfort zone. I know it's much better the way you're writing it on your paper, okay? And out of our comfort zone, we end up building BS. Anybody want to take a shot? No, nobody wants to take a shot of that. Okay, BS is your belief system. Okay? I know where some of you were thinking you were going with that. Okay? We end up building a belief box that we hug and we nurture. And last month's speaker made a great point, if you were here, about the roast. Grandma's in the kitchen with her daughter and her granddaughter, and they're cooking a roast, and they cut the ends off of each of the roasts and they put it in the oven. Remember that story? Phenomenal story. Makes a great point. The daughter says, or the granddaughter says to grandma, why do we cut the end of the roast off? Well, we've just always done it that way. Somebody said that earlier. We've just always done it that way. Right? And so it becomes a belief system that we create a behavior, okay, on your paper, a belief system that creates a behavior or an action, another word for behavior is action, that produces a result in our life. And then we go through life for so long and we say, you know what? I'm really not happy with my results, but I become comfortable living with it. I don't really like it, but I become comfortable with living with it. So I'm really not going to entertain when someone says, let's examine our belief system. How did it get there? How did that belief system that you hold on to so dearly, that isn't moving you towards your written document that you put time and effort into in the creative wilderness to live out your purpose? I think a lot of us have just given up on the whole idea of saying, I even have a purpose. I think a lot of us say, well, I'll let somebody else define my purpose, and I'll live into that, because that's easier. It doesn't take any thinking. Sorry about that. Okay? Right? It doesn't take anything of you. There's no ownership. There's no accountability. There's no responsibility for you to live into someone else's purpose. When you live into your purpose and you define what that is, here's your accountability track. Here's your filtering system to say, I'm going to look at this and decide how it impacts my life. I don't have to submit. I do not have to comply. Big words. My thinking to an agenda that is not moving me in the direction of my life. Everybody with me? Everybody's energy is running a little low. We can pass that wine bottle. I mean, I'll do it. I'll come around and we have coffee. Okay, that gives me another hour. No, we're almost wrapped up. We have coffee. Okay, are you with me so far? Is it making sense? Are you writing things on your paper, seriously? Are you committing to having a conversation with someone somewhere to continue this on? Very good, very good. Let me go back to a couple things that might feel a little uncomfortable as I say them. And I think I've gotten better over the years at delivering uncomfortable information, okay? Not easy. But let me just see if I can open that door a little bit for you to take a belief in that belief box, take a view in that belief box, and examine why you're holding on to it. So let me give you something to think about. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay? However you approach that, right? That's the conscious mind. All right? I would submit to you that you don't expect God to do for you what he can only do through you. Don't expect the divine, if you choose to use a different word other than God. Don't expect source to do for you what it's intended to do through you in your life of thinking and free will. How you use it is totally on you. Jim asked me a phenomenal question several weeks ago when I stood here in Million Cups. It wasn't the format for me to go long in the explanation, and I won't go long tonight. He said, in your coaching work and in your leadership development work that you do with people, what do you find as a common thread among people that you coach? A common thread. And I'm going to share that with you tonight. I put a lot of thought into that ever since he asked me that question. Because it is, move this back a little bit, maybe that'll help. It's a great question. Okay? What's a common thread that I experience when I coach with people one-on-one? Now the coaching environment is extremely confidential. Okay? The coaching is not therapy, coaching is not mentoring, and coaching is not a training workshop. All of those methods have their place, and coaching is certainly not therapy. Okay? But in the coaching process, one-on-one, there's things that I see that people who are on the track of designing their life versus living it by default have found them in a place where they decided that they want control of their thinking. They don't want limiting beliefs. They don't want outside influences saying, this is how you will think, this is how you will behave, and this is what we'll give you as a reward for being part of the herd. Successful people that are in the journey of building out their business, any 5 key areas of their life, do not hide behind language. That, I put a lot of thought into that. I went back and looked at a lot of notes. I went back because all my coaching sessions are recorded. And I extracted this one theme. They've recognized they're not going to hide behind false language. Somebody give me an example. It can be brief. It don't have to be overly personal. Of something you use as a language to keep you in a place where you knew was less than your potential. Margaret.
I don't know if it's quite spot on, but I think it's...
Grab a mic.
I find the phrase, this thought's not helpful, or this isn't helpful to when I'm in a conversation either with someone else or for myself mainly, if I'm going through something is limiting belief or the competing interests of just, I guess, an affirmation in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Did everybody hear that? Okay. Monty. Hey, welcome, man. I'm glad you made it. Everybody knows Monty. He's the celebrity in Eustis. Go ahead. Share with me a thought, Monty.
I would say when I'm not received well.
You got to come on this side of the AC. Yeah.
You want with me. I would say, piggybacking off Margaret, if I'm in a conversation or a situation and what I'm saying isn't adding value, like if I'm not being received well, received positively, if someone's not active listening, then I feel like that's not adding, I'll cease going in that direction conversationally or putting the energy toward that situation unless I really needed to go. I'll try to circumvent that if possible. So I would say gauging where I can add the most value is where I would put the most energy.
put the most energy, where you add the most value into someone's journey.
But receive well.
But receive well. Yes, they have to be a participant, like everybody's being a wonderful participant tonight. Okay, because we have it on video. Okay, so, thank you. In other words, you're going to go through life and be a wandering generality, or you can be a meaningful specific. It's yours to decide. I'm going to give you a personal example. It's my story, it's my journey. I'm not asking you to approve or disapprove or adopt it. Okay, it's important that I say that. I coach people who are very strong personality types, high D personality types, who are very strong in how they express their faith. Okay? Nothing wrong with that, right? People want to have a desire on how they express their faith. They want to live it out and they want to walk it out. Matter of fact, the more they walk it out instead of talk out, the better off they are. Much more fulfilling, right? Walking out that expression of faith, right? But let me tell you a common denominator I have found over the last 4 or 5 years when I'm working with a person who is strong in their faith, okay? An expression they give sometimes. This is my passion, this business is what I'm going to do, and it's God's will that I do it. There's nothing wrong with that declaration. I suggest you write it down and visit it often, if that's the language you're assigning to it. Because that is going to help you navigate and filter through the bombardment from systems of a system. It's going to help you filter through the fear that you're going to face in the 5 key areas of your life. That is wonderful. Write it down and review it. What's the flip side to that? With my experience, what's the flip side to that? Once adversity has been met in that journey, language changes. I'm at a place of fear and I can't step forward in one of the 5 key areas of my life. This is a business meeting, so let's just say along the lines of business. And I don't know how to proceed. And fear is taking over my faith declaration. So my language might pivot and sound something like, I don't believe it's God's will for me to pursue that any further. And they take their language of faith and they turn it to give them a safe place to where they find themselves. Because they've lost the connection that they originally had with the divine. That gave them that purpose, that gave them that dream, that gave them that vision to action out through the good times and the tough times, through the mountaintops and through the valleys, right? Has anybody just had mountaintops in their lives? Regardless of what your faith expression is? Regardless of that. Life's journey is not a continuous mountaintop, especially when you're under constant assault from controlling systems that want to run interference with this. You with me still? We're wrapping in just a few minutes, and then I think there's some questions that the young professionals have set up for the meeting. And please, feel free to have a question if you'd like. Okay, just throw it out there. It's all good. Okay, let's finish up with taking a look at goal plan versus growth plan. On your paper, I think somewhere here, you have goals and you have growth. Other than Monty, because Monty and I have had long conversations about this, okay? Other than Monty, someone tell me in their words, however you want to express it, what a goal plan is. Somebody tell me what that is for your marriage, for your business, whatever you want to pick. Somebody, just tell me, what is it to have a goal plan? Monica.
I believe I can do the best that I can always do. And it doesn't matter what it is. Raising kids, making dinner, making bread, doesn't matter. If I know I'm doing my best, then I know I can do better than that. It's very satisfying.
Excellent. And that's a goal plan for you. And I will testify.
I'm going to do the best.
Do the best.
Very good.
And I do want to testify. I have not raised her kids, but I ate the bread she's made, and I've had many dinners at her house. She delivers excellence. Okay. Great.
Goal planning for me is to be able to achieve what I
set in place for as a goal.
How do you set it in motion?
Through action. I mean, obviously writing it down.
Writing it down.
Writing it down and then start doing the steps to get to that goal.
On your goal journey, do you have measurable dates?
Sometimes, but not detailed, no.
Okay.
Maybe it's like years or you know, if it takes me 2 years or whatever, but it's not real detail. I should be more detailed.
Thank you. And other than Greg, who has not hit a goal they set at one time or another in their life?
Everybody.
Okay, let's do that again. Who has not hit a goal at one time or another in their life? Okay. What do you think the missing ingredient might be? Real quick. What do you think the missing ingredient might be? Beth. Clarity. How do you get clarity on your goal plan? How do you work that out? Spending time to develop a plan, lay it out, and action it. That brings clarity to your goal plan. Angel, thank you. Write it out. Talk to somebody. Make it specific. Okay. Greg.
Another one is, for me, what I do is I go back and see what I have done and assess it and why didn't I achieve that step towards that goal. What was the obstacle or what have you. So I go back and if it's a positive, I still write down, okay, what did I do to get to that goal quick or that step and that goal quicker?
Okay.
So it's a measurement.
Measurement.
Yeah.
Very good. I want to go, Derek, please.
I was going to say, allow the goal to define itself.
Allow the goal to define itself.
In other words, the path that you take may not be the same path that the goal requires you to take. It may take you and deviate you. You may end up at the goal, but it may look very different, or end up getting there in a very different way than you imagined because you allowed it to evolve and develop itself, and you fell through the right cracks, and you allowed yourself to be moved in the right directions as they opened up and presented themselves.
So, listening to that detailed explanation, I'm going to assign a word to it and just see if this is the right word. Intuition. Your intuition. Okay. Connecting to source gives you the thinking to develop your goals. What runs interference with your goals? What's competing for your goals? Systems. System of a system. What are you filtering out of that system? If something you are setting out to achieve to do in your belief box is not moving you closer to that, you need to examine that, look at it, remove it, replace it, or grow it. A lot of us have beautiful beliefs in our belief box that we haven't visited in a long time. A lot of us have beliefs in our belief box that maybe landed there from grandma and grandpa, from a completely different generation, or maybe from a former boss who said you'll never get that title. Some of us have belief systems in our box from herd mentalities from institutions like government, education, big corporations, all competing for your interest, all competing for your energy, all competing for your created wilderness. This is where you live out your purpose that you're working your goals on. What does every goal plan, we'll wrap here, I'm going to pull the book out and read you a quote. What does every goal plan require of you? And you can throw in Monty if you want. Action. I'm looking for another word that's on your paper below goal plans, but action is correct. Growth. I just want to submit something to your thinking. How many of you have a growth plan? I knew that hand would go up. We've had a lot of conversations. How many of you truly have a growth plan? Where you say, I want to grow at being a better husband. I want to grow at being a better mother, a better wife, a better daughter, fill in the category, fill in the blank. I want to grow at being a better business partner. I want to grow at being a better human being for my inner love relationships. I want to grow. I want to have a growth plan to take one of the 5 key areas, take this silly little placemat that you wrote your notes on, and say, I'm going to start working a growth plan. Because here's what I've learned when Jim asked me that question. People will get in the grinding mode to hit a goal. Sometimes they miss it, sometimes they don't. If they don't have a growth plan and become the person they need to become in order to obtain the goal, what happens when they obtain the goal?
Relapse.
It's like coming off a high. You have all this energy, you have all this work, all this focus you've set out to do to establish that goal, and you've attained it, and now there's a vacancy there the following day, the following moment. Now I got to go back to the goal board. I just want to submit to your thinking, have a growth plan. Grow as a human being. Grow as a spiritual being. Become what you need to become in order to obtain the goal you want. When you do that, the goal that you achieve is just merely a byproduct of the journey that you've developed out of who you are. It doesn't become the focal point. Greg?
No, if we put an adjective in front of that goal, it would be like a meaningful goal.
Could you hand him the mic? I'm losing 90% of what you're saying. Meaningful.
I think a lot of us, I know I can talk for myself here, wasn't when I was younger and even to now, I've gotten a lot better over the years, but I've now really think about purposeful and meaningful goals instead of like what you just illustrated. You know, you're achieving that goal and all of a sudden you're deflated. It's like, now what? So I think if you have purposeful and meaningful goals in life, that is going to be everlasting.
Excellent. What do you do? I got a follow-on question for you. To develop out your growth plan.
Well, my thing is that I'm a hardcore Jesus Christ follower, and so for me, I want to achieve on this earth. I want to mimic Jesus Christ in every aspect of my life. So,
excellent. And that growth plan is about building the content of character. Write that under growth plan. Your growth plan builds your content of character. Your goal plan is mechanics. It's operational. It's logistics. It's things you have to do. Sometimes when I sit down, and we're at 7:22, sometimes when I sit down and I talk to a new business startup, one of the best things I suggest to them is talk to Monty about, say the program.
Fast Track, which is a good excuse why I'm late tonight.
Fast Track. It lays out all the groundwork you have to do in order to launch your business. Even if you're a seasoned business professional and you're launching into a new endeavor. I got 2 new endeavors I'm getting ready to launch. I'll be at the next Fast Track. Don't mix up in your language a goal with required activity. If you want to launch a business and be successful, you know you have to have a business plan. It probably doesn't have to land on your goal sheet to have a business plan. That's required of you, or don't enter the playing field. You know, and there's just other language to wrap around that. Just think of goals as mechanical, logistics, operational stuff, and think of growth as the content of character. If you put time into developing both, when you hit what you want to hit, when you achieve what you want to achieve, it has a completely different effect on your life, like Greg was saying. Anybody else, real quick, and then we'll turn it over to either Monty, or you'll be closing out. So anybody else, any last thoughts on some things we talked about, some things you wrote down that you may want to share, good, bad, indifferent, bad? Lifelong learning. Never ends. What is something in your profession or your personal life that you're learning now that may be slightly different than just a few years ago?
A different approach to looking at things that I've looked at for years, looking at them differently, changing that mindset. Maybe it's a paradigm shift.
Changing a mindset. The lens you're looking at today might be different than what you were looking at a year ago. Is it safe to say if I'm the same person today that I was 6 months ago, a year ago, I'm really not growing in any of the 5 key areas of my life?
Could
Maybe.
be. Could be.
Could be. Could be. Go ahead, Margaret. And I'm going to get my book and finish up with a quote because that's how we're going to wrap up.
I've got something for you, Jason.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
So, what are processes you recommend for building and assessing trustworthiness, not only in yourself, but in assessing all 5 key areas? So, I feel like personally, that's what would control the flow of those 5 keys into myself or outward would be my trustworthiness in what's approaching or what I'm assessing.
Rephrase the first part of it.
I guess, how do we build a more solid filter within our own thinking and within those that are pressing thoughts upon us? How do we build trust in ourselves and in others?
What have you experienced in your professional life or your personal life, you personally, that you felt like you knew you could trust your intuition and move forward in that direction? What have you used for a filter for that?
I would say positive reaction. So, social fruition and character growth. You can, I guess, tell when your conscious is telling you yes or no, that was a good thing. But in the process before that, is it always a, swim or sink? Is there a way that you've developed some type of mechanism to practice building that filter so that way we don't have to tread water as long?
Yes. Yes, there is. There's one that I use that you may not use, but it has. Okay, it's caught my attention. Now this guy's a team player. Look at his circle. I mean, okay, good. It distracted me. A complete distraction in the moment to Monty's question. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Coast Guard. So the way I filter that is 2 methods that require my thinking and require an action to back it. I have legal pads in my office, stacks of legal pads, that if you were to walk in and pick up and thumb through the papers, you would think this guy needs to be put in a white jacket in a rubber room. Okay? Because none of it would make sense to you, but it's a beautiful mess to me. What is on that pad of paper is my direct declaration of who I want to become and where I want to go. And if something is coming into my life that does not support that, I filter it out. Because I'm a firm believer that there's only one person on earth that can achieve Jason's purpose, and that is Jason. And there's competing interests that take him away from that purpose all the time. Some of those competing interests are very good intending people who do not share your dream or your vision. They'll give you lip service. Some of them are very toxic people that we keep in our life or within a certain radius of our life. I filter things according to my declaration of the direction I'm going through the thinking and building beliefs that create a behavior that produce a result to land me here. And I'm very careful of who I let speak into that. And so, you're just going to be at times where some people just do speak into it. And you're going to have those relationships where you have to understand that. And you have to work through that. You have to filter that. All the more reason, as Greg said, is to have a growth plan. Somebody else. Yes?
So we spoke quite a bit about fear. I think that word came up several times for obvious reasons. So as someone who personally has dealt with fear, I'll talk about myself, but I've also watched close family members essentially live their lives in fear and have done my best to refuse to live my life in fear. For those who still struggle with that, how would you advise them to not allow fear to essentially stop them in their tracks?
Thank you. Very good. Somebody else.
No, sir. No, sir. You can't skip that question. You tried it.
I was just gonna say, and it might help answer to your question too, but to over here, would you think that journaling might help someone work through those different processes? Work through, identify where these limiting beliefs, these hazards, these folks that are all this noise coming into our lives, be able to help identify it and work through getting through it.
I certainly do. I think journaling is a phenomenal tool of helping you recognize the history on this part of the equation of how you've lived out your life. It can bring focus and clarity. But I would add to journaling, writing and clarity of where you want to be, where you plan on it landing, and then pull that into your current reality. The ever-present now, right here in this moment. None of us can go back 3 seconds on that clock and take a breath, and none of us can go 3 seconds in the future and take a breath. Impossible. You're in the now. You're in the moment or you're not. You're in your moment that you're defining and walking into and building and growing. It's a process. Or you're walking into and living out the agenda of someone else or of an entity. Angel.
I think intentionally taking the time to actually listen to yourself and talking to yourself through meditation, and then filtering that stuff out and hearing your voice of the growth that you need and stuff instead of all that distraction.
Meditation, prayer, talking to yourself, talking to someone else. With no distractions. How many of you take time to do that? Let me ask you an honest question when we read the book. And go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yes, there's plenty of Buddhist chapels out there, or temples, or whatever you want to call it. But it's just taking a walk in silence, removing yourself from the office, to take a breath, to get clarity of, well, where am I going with all this? Just giving 5 minutes to yourself. And I think a lot of people forget, because they get in a rat race of, oh, I gotta get this done, it's just taking 5 minutes to remove yourself from everybody else. And that's part of removing yourself from the herd, to hear you. You want to do.
And all of us have the ability to set some time aside every day to do that. We really do. How many of you, when you wake up within the first 5 minutes, are looking at your phone? Be honest. My wife and I, for the last 5 years, have been having coffee every morning together at a certain spot in our house every morning for 5 years. Rule number 1 is we don't bring the phone. We're just going to sit there, have some coffee, think about some stuff, have a conversation. Maybe sometimes it's longer, maybe sometimes it's shorter. But all that competing interest enters in to take you out of that moment, that place of thinking and realigning and reconnecting into what your purpose is and acting that out. A lot of times we're not happy with our results, so we go into behavior modifications, beat ourselves up. You know what? I'll do more time on the treadmill. I'll walk further. I'll spend less time watching the news. And we look at the behavior, we make some adjustments, we jump back into results, we get a little uptick, but then it falls short again. We go back into behavior modification. All I'm submitting to you tonight, guys, is go into your belief system, examine what you're holding on to, see why. It may be a beautiful belief that you're living in fully. Continue to grow it. It may be one that you've ignored. Revive it. It may be one that is actually running interference with where you need to go with your journey. Let it go. Release it. Let it go. Okay? Anybody else? I'll read the quote and we'll be done. Greg.
The thing I've been looking at is the word commitment. And now, as I get older, time is more important to me. So when I was younger, I was all over the place doing everything, but wasn't really committed. And now I'm choosing to define what I'm gonna commit to. And that has really helped me, because is it gonna be committing to something that I'm not gonna do 100%, so why start doing it? So I'm very intentional in whatever I'm committing to now, and not just saying, hey, I'll be there. I have to think about it and say, okay, you know what? I have this other commitment, so I'm gonna honor that. So commitment is a big word that I think that would really help if you really committed to what you wanted to do.
Let me give you one quick follow-on to that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So by intentionally defining what you commit to, how has that changed results in your life? Just a brief example.
Sure. For me, it holds me accountable. It's helped me personally to where I am respecting something that I'm committed to. Be it meeting with somebody else instead of, oh, you know what, I want to go do this, but no, I have my word. I committed to that person.
Thank you.
So accountability.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Feedback on that, I've been really in a season of creating my branding. So I intentionally accept opportunities that make sense for my branding. Whether it's sitting on board of something or attending something, I've learned to scale back, say thank you for the opportunity, but not at this time. So I've learned to be intentional with what I'm getting involved in.
Intentional in what you're getting involved with. Sounds to me like you live life by design, not default. Right? Anybody else? Derek, and then
I'm just speaking for myself. But,
sure.
For me, it's been exactly what you talked about, which is removing all of those competing thoughts, religion, news, government, all other people's beliefs, and just focusing on the here and now. And as I've been doing these things, I've been noticing my outcomes change and my surroundings change. It doesn't mean that bad things are not going to happen. It's how I handle it that's different. It's not a fear, it's an opportunity for growth. So if something bad happens that we define as bad, which is really just, an experience, it's a learning experience. Oh, okay, I'm not going to go through that door again. I'm going to shut it. And when I see that door again down the road, I don't turn it. But we cannot avoid negativity or things that occur, but we can help the way we process all the things you talked about, and it does produce life. And if everything in our view and our connection with the divine or whatever your belief is, it just ends up being a positive. Even those things that we feared are not anything to be feared. Now it's just, I'm going to avoid that situation because it doesn't produce life or health in my mind. And that's, I'm not there at all whatsoever, but that is what I focused myself on, is removing the thoughts. Just, if I'm driving, no listening to radio, no phone, just look at the trees and how pretty they are, and the birds flying. It's just, they don't require news or anything else to survive. They just exist. They live, they have food, they nurture themselves, and then they leave this earth without any of the things that we fill our minds with, which is exactly what you were talking about. I love what you did and what you shared. That's awesome. I wish more people would share that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tom.
They tell you to give a busy person the job because they'll get it done. And I've had many seasons in my life, especially during startups, that I have to turn away certain work, things that I love to do, things that I really want to do. I had a mentor teach me once that when people ask you to do things that you shouldn't be doing or can't do, you disarm them through a complimentary process. And the statement that I was taught was, oh, I wish I could, but I can't. But you're the best at that. Oh, I love doing that. I wish I could, but I can't. And about the third time, you completely disarm the person who's asking you to do something in a complimentary way.
Thank you. And I would add to that, not that it needs adding, but I would submit into our thinking along with that, that that's you taking control of your thinking, moving in your direction, and if it doesn't support you, release it. Whether it's news, whether it's any of these institutions we mentioned. And what I submit to you, Derek, is the thought that you're taking and looking through a different lens at these competing interests for your energy, for your focus. And that's what you're doing. You're looking at it differently instead of just complying. So anybody else, and we'll wrap. Beth. It's coming.
One thing that I have implemented into my life, both professional and personal, assimilated a number of years ago through a program, and it's very simple. It's the E plus R equals L. E plus R equals L. Event, whatever that is, whatever it is that you find that's negative, that isn't working for you, that you've decided to try to discard from your life, you look at that event for what it is. Don't try to put anything more into it. Don't try to give it an emotional, position. It is what it is. And you control the outcome by how you respond to that. So whatever you choose to do in response is going to drive the outcome that you would like to achieve.
Thank you. Excellent. I hope some of you wrote that down. I have a mentor who said almost the same thing to me. He used a different language because I was at a point of struggle in my life, and he said, it may not be your fault what happened to you, but you are accountable and responsible for the choices you make. Thank you. Anybody else?
Jason, I've got one, and it's excellent to hear your story. I'm really lucky to have heard it more in depth, especially your experience overseas and helping the Pashtun get out and starting that venture and continuing to get people out. That I just want to sequence from what Kyrie said, the keyword fear. So when Hitler got elected, they were coming out of the Great Depression, and it was fear that got him elected, not necessarily the truth and information of what he was saying. So I want to know from your experience kind of how you've been able to go against the grain in your living and facilitate, enough with the grain to not go rogue or disappear, but to assess what to learn and how to learn it, especially in the information age now. There's just so many rabbit holes and sources for information that aren't all necessarily the truth. Communication is in abundance right now, and how are you able to filter that and conquer fear in the process?
That's a great question, and that will be next month's likely. No, I'm kidding. Listen, that's a great question. And give me the liberty to just take a few minutes, because we're still very good on time, to take a few minutes and answer him in the form of a story, if you don't mind, okay? So I'm in Herat province, about 90 miles off the border of Iran. I'm living with 750 Afghans with about 12 other Americans. Get a visual on that. This part of that country looked like the moon. Okay, it was desolate, and we were living in very austere environment. 12,750. And I'm going to tie this into a group of business professionals that I had a very humbling privilege just a short few weeks ago, just a short few weeks ago, to observe a mastermind. I didn't participate, but I was allowed to observe this and then talk about it with a thinking coach afterwards. And I'm going to tie that in a minute. Fear is a wonderful tool to manipulate masses or an individual. You can steer large numbers of people with fear. And then it becomes very manipulative. To achieve an outcome that benefits you, not the individuals you're directing, correct? Okay. Stay with me on this. 750 Afghans. We have 450 of them in our camps at any time. They come from all over the country. Just like here in America, in Afghanistan, depending on what part of the country you come from, you might express your religion differently than somebody who comes from a different part of the country. But one thing very different that I had to learn very quickly, living in that country, living with them, eating with them, fighting with them, was that they look at things very tribally, very tribal. Tribe is more important than religious differences. It didn't matter to them Sunni, Shia. It mattered tribe, lineage, heritage. Here we call that community. We want to find a community that we want to associate with. Okay? Where am I going with this? At any given moment, those 750 plus men could have overrun us at any time. At any time. At any time, 450 of them had weapons. And we're controlling their movements. How do you contain that energy? The U.S. uses this playbook all over the world. And I say this with authority because I've administered it in several places of the world. I don't say this as I'm bashing because I'm bashing the government. I'm saying this because I executed this playbook. You control people's environment. You control how they live. You control what they eat. You control the quality of where they lay their head at night and sleep. You control how often they can talk to their family. And 12 guys can steer 750 to have them do whatever they want. And if you start to sense a little going rogue over here, you just turn that flame up a little bit. You will force compliance. Did you hear my words? And it's okay because you're sitting here and you're saying, well, he's saying that about Afghanistan. He's saying that about people I don't relate to, so it's okay. Let me pivot to a mastermind that I sat in, that I had no business being in other than by invitation from the guy running the mastermind. Because that mastermind required you to basically have had a business in place that was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars. That was me. Okay? But the facilitator and I have a great relationship. This was what the questions in that business mastermind was about. What have you experienced in the last 4 years as a business owner that came from fear to move your activity to get you to comply and to follow something that you knew that wasn't true? And how did that affect your business? Now I'm bringing it home, so now we're going to cross our arms and get a little uncomfortable. And I got to tell you the wisdom that these business people shared in that meeting was truly amazing. How many of them lost employees? How many of them told they couldn't go to work because of COVID? How many small businesses were wiped out of existence? If you're not listening a little bit to RFK as he breaks down what has happened to the small business community, 44% of minority businesses will never come back that were wiped out during COVID. But not a single big business that was in bed with the power structure suffered a bit. You control people's money, you control their movement, you control their life sustainment, you can get to do whatever you want. They will willfully comply. Listen, I've been on the battlefield with my nation's uniform on. I went overseas for 4 years and worked, to answer Monty's question, as a private security contractor for government agencies or corporations, which are all owned by the government agencies. Okay? I know the playbook. It doesn't make me special. It makes my experience just different than yours. So when I say things that I know that are true, sometimes it creates a little rub. I understand that. I'm not trying to create a rub. I'm just trying to expand your thinking. But what these businessmen shared was absolutely amazing because you won't see it on Fox News. You won't see it on CNN. You won't see the impact of the fear and then the intentional steering of the masses on this globe to comply. I'll finish with this because it's near and dear to my heart. I know we all have experienced the loss of loved ones in our lives. We've all experienced that. When you experience the loss of someone in an austere environment on a battlefield, it's very different. So my mother, and Kaylee helped us recently, is in her 80s and she's working her way through Alzheimer's, right? And we know what chapters are ahead in her life. And that loss is going to be significant. But I'm telling you, for some reason that I can't put words around, the loss of life on a battlefield is completely different. It impacts you completely different. When I've worked with Pashtuns, okay, on the border of Afghanistan, they look at us and they have this mindset. You don't know what freedom is. I've had some very interesting conversations with imams. You know what an imam is? The religious leader in the Islamic world, right? Very interesting, long conversations. Oops. And I just want to share with you from this perspective. They think we substitute freedom for convenience. Wow. Never in my programming from all these institutions, especially the programming I got from the DOD, my educational system, my religious system, have ever challenged my thought on defining freedom. If you want to live in the creative wilderness and you define your document, define success, define freedom, and ask yourself, am I really free? Or do I comply for conveniences? As long as I'm getting something at the trough of convenience, I'll keep complying. So a great way to move 750 Afghan fighting men, these men have been fighting since they came out of the womb. I'm not kidding you. These people have AK-47s since birth. They know more about warfare than I ever did, and I've been trained by some very good people in warfare. Because it's all they've ever known. Okay? And when they say to me, you think you're free because you have conveniences. I'm free because I don't have a system telling me how to live my life. I'm designing that. Without going rogue, it's very difficult. Because once you step out of the herd, whether it's the educational system, whether it's the financial system, whether it's religious systems, whether it's governmental bureaucracies, okay? Once you step out of that herd, what do we have in America now? Started in 2001, had all different names, went on steroids in 2011 at 7:52, I'm rapping, okay? Went on steroids. 2016, they actually gave it a title in the Department of Homeland Security called the Ministry of Truth. The Ministry of Truth in the good old United States of America. And I'm not being casual when I do this waving of the flag. I'm not, because I've earned the right to say what I'm about to say. Today, it's no longer the Ministry of Truth. It's still housed in the Department of Homeland Security. And you know what it's called? The censorship industrial complex that was birthed out of the Patriot Act. And the whole language that was written into that document was to say, we will protect you from digital terrorists and we will protect you from information terrorists. I can get anything on my phone from Afghanistan tomorrow. Anything, any political view, anything. I go on YouTube and I make a statement and I'm censored. Home of the brave and land of the free? Is that what it is? Really? How free am I when I design my life purpose and I want to do a YouTube podcast and I say things that the system doesn't like? The Ministry of Truth. The censorship industrial complex. Oh, no, we're going to cancel you. Don't you speak against our mandate. So how do they get compliance? Pure manipulation. Pure manipulation. How do we filter it, as Derek said? I don't want to end on that note. How do we filter that? What lens are you using? And I hope it's somewhere in here, however you define that, to say, this is how I filter what I'm bombarded with. To answer your question, if it does not support my purpose, I get rid of it. I don't entertain it in my thinking, and I don't entertain it in my presence. I filter it strongly here. If I have somebody in my life that is not helping me move towards my purpose, and even if they don't know directly what my purpose is, if they're not adding value into my life, I love you, but I release you to your highest good. I don't wish you any ill will. I hope you're happy. I hope you're successful, but we're just not going to walk this journey out together. We got some differences going on in our thinking. Because you have one shot. You have one shot in this human experience to execute what only you can execute. To live out only what you can live out. If you're brave enough to look in that belief box and say, what's helping me get there? If it's not, it goes. If I got to add some new ones, I will. And it's a journey. It's a process, like you said, a process of growth. I didn't even put the slides up. Who cares? Who cares? Go to the first slide. We'll end on that note. I was at my mother's house the other day. Okay, it's up here too. I'm at my mother's house the other day, digging through some boxes, and I find this old picture of Christy and I when we were a lot younger, working in Grandma's garden. And I said, Mom, can I have that picture? I said, I gotta have that picture. She said, sure, take it. Okay. So there's Christy and I. And what does that statement say? Who has a good, strong voice that will read that quote as we wrap this? And I've said that 10 times, but we are wrapping it. Who's going to read that quote for me? Out of James Allen's book.
As a plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not appear without them.
Harvest the good. Everybody do this for me. Through your nose, go, and then let it out. Okay? The whole purpose tonight was just for you to leave and harvest some good. Take your placemat home, have a cup of coffee with it, with someone who's close to you, and continue this conversation. Here's my ending quote, because we are wrapping. Okay? I told you, I'm going to drop into the 70s if you guys aren't smiling. Okay. James Allen is very poetic. Started writing this work in the late 1800s. I think it was published in the early 1900s. So the language he uses is a little bit different than the language we use today. He says man, but he means men and women. Okay? So, the vision that you glorify in your mind. What's another word for glorify? The vision that you glorify in your mind. The vision that you worship. Glorify. The vision that you glorify in your mind. The ideal that you enthrone in your heart. This you will build your life by. This you will become. It goes back to one simple thing we started in the beginning. As a man thinketh, so is he. Are you thinking into fear? Are you thinking into systems? Are you thinking into the creative space? Are you bold enough to take a look in those beliefs that you've been hanging on to see what's helping you in your journey and release the ones that you're not? Do you want to start a growth plan? Or are you just going to keep hammering out the goals? You have to become the person you need to become in order to obtain the prize. I appreciate you guys tonight coming out. I hope you enjoyed the food. There's a whole lot of it. My wife already is like, hey, whatever's left, I'm bringing to the office girls tomorrow. So please get up there and have some more of that food, okay? And have more of those snacks. I really appreciate you. That's some great artwork right there. I hope to see that up on the wall next time I'm visiting your house. That's wonderful. I'm going to just say this as an announcement for the Tri-Lake County. Next week, is next week October 3rd? Or now we got another week out? Okay. In the first week of October, there's a group getting together in Mount Dora, and we're doing a constitutional study. And it isn't going to be like hardcore university study. These are business folks, and we're going to take a look at a constitutional republic versus a constitutional democracy, and what is the difference, and how are the words important. I think Senator Hayes will be bringing the books by. just talk to me later if you want to be involved with that. It's anybody, any age, business owner, employee, whatever. It will be a great course. It will be a great awakening for you to participate in. And I think the books are like $20. I'm just going to drop them off on our first night. We'll be meeting at Eden Abbey's, and I think there's room for 12 more. So just think into that. You may want to participate. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Alright, so if everybody thought Jason was good, go see his wife, just get on his calendar. Right, that's the right answer. I don't think we have the slide for his information, but Jason, I'm sorry I took you down a rough path there with that question. So I appreciate you answering that and being with us tonight. Spending time with Jason over the last 6 months, I would say, he believes in giving back, he believes in community, although we got a little deep in there in the mass community. But so I encourage you to have more conversations and more coffee with Jason, because he's truly giving back, in my opinion, and will continue to do so on a one-on-one basis or a group basis, just like tonight. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you don't feel it was an assault on your beliefs. I really don't. It was just an expansion of your thinking into your beliefs. That's all.
I feel more empowered than assaulted.
Okay, help yourself. Grab some stuff, say hi, run out if you gotta run out.
Yeah.
I understand. Thank you for being here on Tuesday night. I appreciate it.
Next month,
Go ahead.
yeah. Next month is a pitch competition. We're sponsoring the Synfluence event along with Mega Workplace and organized by League. So it'll be a live pitch competition with 200 of the most techie businesses in Central Florida area, 23 county Florida high-tech corridor. So if you want full pitch competitions are actually vying for real funds, come enjoy food, beverages. Miss Pam, did Wolf Ranch go? I think Wolf Ranch, we might get a couple things. Yep. So October 29th, we've got flyers in the back. Thank you all. We'll be cleaning up.